How has Buddhism changed over time? If you're curious about how Buddhism has evolved since its beginnings, you're about to embark on a fascinating journey through history. Let's explore how this ancient belief system has transformed over the centuries. Buddhism started with Siddhartha Gautama, a young Indian prince who lived around 563 to 483 BCE. He renounced his royal life to seek spiritual enlightenment and eventually became known as the Buddha. His teachings were simple yet profound, focusing on the Four Noble Truths and the Middle Path, which rejected extreme asceticism and luxury alike. Initially, Buddhism spread within India, but it wasn't long before it began to travel along trade networks and through the efforts of missionaries. One of the key figures in this spread was Emperor Ashoka, who ruled the Mauryan Empire from 268 to 232 BCE. Ashoka adopted Buddhism and used his power to promote it across India and beyond, sending monks to places like Sri Lanka, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia. As Buddhism traveled, it encountered various cultures and adapted to them. For example, when it reached China, it blended with Confucian and Taoist beliefs. In China, concepts like ancestor veneration and filial piety became part of Buddhist practices. Similarly, in Central Asia, Buddhism merged with elements of Greek culture, resulting in what is known as Greco-Buddhism. One significant change was the development of different schools of Buddhism. The Second Buddhist Council, held around 386 BCE, marked the first major schism, with the Mahasanghika school parting ways from the Theravada and Theravada schools. Later, the Mahayana school emerged, which allowed people to strive for enlightenment without becoming monks. Mahayana Buddhism became the most widespread form of Buddhism globally. Buddhism also evolved through the influence of prominent teachers. Asanga and Vasubandhu, brothers who lived in the 4th to 5th century CE, were key figures in the Yogacara school, which emphasized meditation. The translation of Buddhist texts into Chinese by scholars like Kumarajiva and Hui Yuan further facilitated the spread and adaptation of Buddhism. In different regions, Buddhism took on unique forms. In Tibet, Buddhism was introduced in the 7th century and eventually became a central part of Tibetan culture. The Great Samya debate in the 8th century decided that Indian Mahayana Buddhism would be the form adopted in Tibet. In Japan, Buddhism blended with Shinto practices, and Buddhist monks even became caretakers for Shinto shrines. Buddhism's flexibility was a key factor in its widespread adoption. It challenged social hierarchies, particularly the caste system in India, and provided roles for women in monastic life. This adaptability allowed Buddhism to become a dominant belief system in countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia, even though it gradually declined in India. Today, Buddhism is not a single, uniform belief system, but rather a diverse collection of traditions that have evolved over time. Its ability to accommodate local beliefs and practices has been instrumental in its global spread. Whether it's Theravada Buddhism in Southeast Asia or Mahayana Buddhism in East Asia, each form has its unique characteristics while retaining the core teachings of the Buddha. In summary, Buddhism has changed significantly over time through its spread across different cultures, the development of various schools, and the influence of key historical figures. Its adaptability and universal message have made it one of the world's major belief systems.